Welcome your host, Caddy Frank, as she leads discussions about substance use disorder and the journey to recovery. You're listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution.
What? Wow. Hello. So here we are, and we are on the radio for Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. And I am trying to get Miss Rachel's ears working. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Can't hear you now. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, we thought we'd figure this out, folks. So we're just going to leave everything right where it's at. My name is Caddy Frank, and I am a woman in long-term recovery representing Minnesota Recovery Connection. Who are you?
I am Rachel. I am a recovery navigator at the Minnesota Recovery Connection.
Oh, my goodness. So here we are. We're having discussions about substance use disorder and recovery and all these marvelous things. So I brought Rachel on here today, and we're going to talk about an interesting topic. But before we get there, I want to say special thanks to our generous funders, including the Patrick and Amy Butler Foundation, Family Foundation, Otto Bremer Trust, the Sauer Family Foundation, the Hardenberg Foundation, along many other foundations, corporate and individual contributors. And I'm here to tell you, we're happy to take any little dollars or cents you want to send our way. We're a nonprofit organization that does incredible work, right, Rachel?
Yes.
Amazing work.
Absolutely.
Amazing work.
Amazing
Work. And always looking for an opportunity for our coffers to have a few more shekels in it. So if anybody understood that, I think you have to be over 50 to understand what I just said. Yeah, Rachel's looking at me like, what are you saying, Kenny?
I'm 41 and you
yeah,
lost
you're
me
wondering,
there.
yeah. Yep. So we're going to start the show like we always do. So Rachel, what's right with you today?
What is right with me? I'm very excited to be here to talk about something that I consider very near and dear to me. It's kind of like my life's work right now.
Yeah, I know.
So I am excited to be here to talk about Child and Family Services.
She just gave us a hint on what our conversation's going to be.
Yes. So, Caddy, what is right with you today?
Well, as of today, it's going to be a gorgeous day outside. Oh my goodness, they're going to be like up in the 60s. Ooh. Like, I know.
Ooh.
Weather Caddy is on the move.
Yes.
So the weather's going to be nice. Spring is like going to sprung pretty soon, which is great. But it is just a good day. I had a absolutely productive weekend. Which is nice. We're recording not on Saturday, just so you know. But I came off of the weekend feeling really good about getting a bunch of stuff done and I kind of adulted this weekend.
Oh, I like it.
I know. Adulting. It's like, I took care of stuff.
Nice.
I put stuff where stuff should go and paid some bills and did some stuff.
That makes one of us, because I definitely did not do any adulting.
No.
I was watching my little reality TV all weekend, catching up on my shows.
Well, but you are a living, breathing adult with a little person.
Yes.
So, you get to adult even when you don't know if you're adulting.
True.
Yes. So that's what's right with me today. So I brought Rachel in here to talk about what we call Children and Family Services. Some people might know it in the greater big world, CFS, CPS. There's all kinds of little acronyms that run around. So Children and Family Services, or
CPS,
which stands
Child Protective Services. Yep.
So there's kind of a bunch of acronyms and ways of looking at this. But I thought Rachel is going to tell a little bit of her story of how she made her way through that process. And we want to kind of educate the larger community on what this can look like just in general, and where can we be advocates for people who are struggling with this situation that comes around? How can we be community members that are able to support others in our communities? So when we come back from break, we're going to dabble in this conversation of helping kiddos and also helping the adults that need help. So we will be back momentarily. Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution.
6 strings, 'cause without it there's no song. And this house needs love in it.
Just gotta love that music rolling into a beautiful conversation. Well, welcome back. Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. Who's across the table from me?
Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Patty.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great. So we are going to tippy-toe into a conversation that makes some people squirm in their seat a little bit. Would you agree, Rachel?
Yes.
A little uncomfortable.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. And when I asked Rachel to come on today, I thought, you know what? We need to sometimes get a little squirmy in our seats. So if you're uncomfortable with the idea of listening to Children and Family Services, sometimes children have to go into the support systems because people have trouble. And if this is something that's a little too close to your heart, feel free to listen to another show another day. And otherwise, just listen and hang on and be willing to hear a story that might be a little uncomfortable, because when substance use disorder comes in and vulnerable adults, meaning little people, maybe sometimes bigger people that are vulnerable, services have to be brought in. But we might be able to do it differently, right, Rachel?
Yes.
We might be able to support people in a different way. So if you wouldn't mind walking into your journey of your Children and Family Services CPS case.
Yes, I only had one case.
Okay, good.
But it was a very large case. So I struggled with substances, specifically meth, for 20 years. But during my addiction, I was kind of able to stop when I wanted to, until late 2017 is when I really fell into a deep addiction. But prior to that, I had 2 kids that I had cared for, taken care of. But when my addiction really took a turn for the worst, my mom took custody of my older 2 kids. So they were living with my mom. I hate saying this, but it almost enabled me to fall deeper in my addiction because, I knew my kids were safe. I knew that they were stable.
Let me just take a step back. So you were struggling with substance use for a while,
Yep.
and it was going on and it was going on. You had these people,
Yep.
and these people were doing okay, but then it sort of elevated to a point where you weren't
Yep.
at all in your best space.
No, so I was in a really horrifically awful domestic abuse situation with my older son's father. So when that relationship ended in 2017, that's when I just had developed CPTSD, so complex post-traumatic stress disorder.
From the abuse that took place.
Yep,
Okay.
and that's when my mom kind of took custody of my older 2 kids.
Okay, and this was your own decision, or was this...
This was kind of like... it was really her decision, but I mean, I was on board with it.
You were on board. There we
Absolutely.
go. That's what I
Yep.
mean. So sometimes things can happen. A
Yep.
child or children can go to somebody else, and you're not necessarily in the best space in your mind,
Right.
but you're on board with it because
Yes,
another caring adult stept in.
Yep. So I knew that they were safe. I
Great.
knew that they were being taken care of.
Okay.
But on the other end of the spectrum, like I said, that kind of...
Woohoo!
that was like enabled me to really go off the rails because it was almost like I had no responsibilities at that point. And so my addiction really took off. I ended up getting pregnant again in 2023. I was able to remain substance free while I was pregnant.
Good for you.
But as soon as I had my son, I started using immediately again. I know specifically for me, in my experience, as soon as I was doing meth, I turned into a criminal. So just instantly.
That mindset comes in. And,
Yep.
and here's what I want to help people understand. So we have a woman here who struggled with substance use disorder, probably a multitude of reasons why substances came in to just sort of make the pain go away. And what happens is that our logical mind goes away because the disease of addiction comes in and it literally repathways how we think logically. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
And so I just want everybody to understand, I don't think Rachel is a bad mom. I think Rachel had some circumstances where she needed to escape, and she did the right thing with 2 children. And then she was able, went back to her substances because this is called the disease of addiction. It's a substance use disorder. And now you've gotten pregnant again. You've obviously found a relationship with someone.
Yep.
And you did the right thing. You stayed off of any chemicals while you were pregnant with your son,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
And then
I was still using. So
After he was born.
After he was born, yep. I had my own apartment, but there's no real responsibilities. When I say that, I mean like we're not working. We're committing crimes to get drugs
because you're back on your substances.
Exactly.
Little person is.
That was our means of getting income.
Got it.
So during that time, the police ended up getting involved. My house ended up getting raided for stolen property just from living in that life.
Yep.
So the police come in, and me and his dad, we both get arrested. Our 2-year-old son at the time is taken. He is given to a family member. Me and my significant other, we get out of jail. That family member was somebody that was close to me at the time, and she was still allowing me to see my son, and I wasn't supposed to. And CPS, Child Protective Services, ends up finding out about that. So they come in and they take my son from this family member.
Even though it was sort of like the best of all worlds.
Yes.
And it was you agreed with it. How did Children and Family Services kind of get into the mix? Do you have any idea?
They were I don't know.
They were like sniffing around?
They got an investigator, and she was on it, okay?
Okay.
They knew that this family member, she's the one that bailed me out of jail, so they knew that we had a relationship.
Okay.
So they were watching. They knew.
Okay.
But at the same time, when this family member had my son, it was almost like I didn't really lose him because I was still allowed to see him all the time.
Which is marvelous.
Yep. But at the same time, I wasn't taking the steps that CPS wanted me to take to get my son back, which means going to treatment, getting that assessment done, getting the ball rolling on
recovery in some way, shape, or form.
So when they took my son from my family member, he went to a foster home with strangers, people that I had never met. That scared the living daylights out of me and my partner. So that's when we went to treatment.
Okay.
We got our assessments done, and we checked in on the same day together. But in those early stages of that CPS case, I was so scared. I had no idea what was going on, because I need you to know that it's completely, any court proceedings or anything that are happening, it is completely different than criminal court. So where I'm well versed in criminal court because I have a justice involved background, when we're going to court, I felt like a deer in headlights. I had no idea what was going on. And I have this CPS worker that I am not able to communicate with.
So I'm going to just pause for a minute, because you're tossing out a lot of information here.
Yeah.
And she's excited and anxious about having some of these conversations. So let's just take a deep breath, Ms. Mitchell. Yes. So you are doing the right. So the CPS said, we're taking your kiddo out of this, what we don't think is a protective situation, based on their assessment, not that anything was going sideways. You're all of a sudden, you're like, oh dear, we got to get our stuff together. So you go to treatment and you start the process moving. But I think I've heard this from you before, but other people too. And that is what happens is that, and you're about to tell us that this is not like you are fully informed on everything that is happening, right?
Absolutely not.
You've got this system that is taking your child and moving it to somebody else that you don't have any idea who they are. You're in your own world trying to figure out yourself, to get off your substances, get your stuff together. And these two worlds are not working conducively together. They're actually crashing really hard. So what I'm trying to paint a picture is you can almost imagine that a person, even if they want their child back, the system is not friendly, and like you might just say, to heck with it, right?
Right. So don't get me wrong. There are good
I'm sure there are great humans out there. Yours wasn't.
In my experience, the worker the social worker, the CPS worker, in the beginning that because I ended up getting one later on, but we'll get into that later. But the lady that I was working with at the beginning of my case, I would ask questions and I wouldn't get a straight answer. She wouldn't respond to me for a couple of days. And this is like, I need this information, and so we would go to court and they would say, oh, Rachel's not doing this. I didn't know I was supposed to do that. Nobody told me. I really didn't feel that I had anybody that was on my side in those first couple of months. And it was overwhelmingly frustrating. And then my frustration at that time, I really couldn't regulate my emotions. So then I looked
angry.
Yeah, yes. And it just...
and probably pushed back a little harder than
yes.
had you possibly been given at least the phone call back in a
Yep.
day or two.
Yes.
So you can go to court, you can be prepared, you know what's been going
Yep.
on. And so just, I think if anybody's catching what we're throwing down here, is communication is really critical, even in the worst of situations,
Yes.
the hardest of situations. And we are not criticizing Children and Family Services and CPS. What we're doing is that we're really talking about how communication can change how Rachel's situation and how she might have felt better. And so we were talking earlier, what might have helped?
Well, I definitely wish that I had somebody up here, somebody that was like, hey, I have successfully completed CPS. I have been through this. Hey, this is what's happening right now. Or, hey, Rachel, don't email your CPS worker at 3 a.m.
17 times.
17 times. It's not going to look good. You're having trouble communicating. Let me step in and let's see if we can have a meeting, all three of us together.
Right.
Or, hey, let's look at your case plan. I can help you explain what this means.
Yeah.
That would have been, that would have made just all of the difference.
Well, and I think that's, we talk about peer recovery services for people who are going through the recovery process in the beginning, middle, and long-term recovery. Sometimes you just need somebody there to listen.
Yep.
What I am really picking up that you are tossing down as she giggles is to have a supportive system wrapped around people going through this hardest time of their life.
Yes.
Probably even harder than finding your recovery. You got a
Right.
little person that is just out there and you're praying that everything's going fine. No wonder why 3 o'clock in the morning, you're sending a note off to someone.
Yes.
So then what happened?
So we ended up going to treatment. And I will say that once me and my partner ended up, taking those rose-colored glasses off and finally start working on the things that were on our case plan, things did get better with that CPS worker. We had to start out doing supervised visits, meaning when we saw our son, there was somebody else sitting there with us that would watch us, and they would write a report. She ended up being a great advocate for us, though. And in those moments, that first couple of months, it almost seemed like, she was the only one that was really on our side or was saying something good about us, which was very helpful. But we went to treatment, supervised visits. Then
started getting yourselves together,
yes,
right?
Yes, yep.
Yeah. So the clarity was coming in on terms
Yep.
of how do I feel? How am I feeling? Wow, I can see this maybe through a better lens. Because in the beginning, I'm sure you were just out of your mind.
Yes.
Still coming off of your substances.
Absolutely.
Not thinking clearly.
Right.
Just madder than a hornet.
And really, that being able to regulate your emotions, when you're coming off of substances or you're on substances, it's just not happening.
Right.
At least for myself, it was just, they were all out of whack.
Yeah. And I think that's important for anybody who's listening to this. And that is when somebody is in that early stage of finding their recovery and they're trying to find their regulation and then they have these other complex situations going on. It is not easy to try to navigate it all, right?
No, it's not. It was it was traumatic for me and my partner, but it was very traumatic for my son.
Oh.
So he is 2 years old at the time. And I can own the fact that I wasn't being the best mom, but I had never spent one night away from my 2-year-old son. So when they took him and brought him to live with strangers, he started to develop an attachment disorder.
Sure.
So, that was really difficult to see. And I know for me and my partner's case, we kind of moved through the CPS system pretty quickly. And we were told that, once we started abiding by our case plan, they were like, wow, you guys are making great strides. But in the participants that I'm working with now, it's not always the case, you know?
So it's taking more time for them to kind of get regulated, as you said, sort of see the forest through the trees, that this could actually work out because they're probably still mad or angry or sad.
Or maybe they're not being able to communicate with that CPS worker.
It's communication again.
Yes.
Man, it just comes down to that, folks. We just got to learn how to communicate better.
Yes.
So What happened? So you told me when we were talking about this that you got a new caseworker that really seemed to be someone who kind of advocated for you and got you onto the net. You should see her eyes, y'all.
She was amazing. So my CPS worker ended up going on medical leave, so I got a new CPS worker. And she is just the most amazing. I still talk to her to this day.
Oh,
my case closed in August, but she was just the light that I needed. I'm telling you, she called me a couple times a week and just told me I was amazing. Told me what a fabulous job I was doing. And I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
So once I started working with her and she was advocating for us, things just really got 10,000 times better. She was able to advocate and get me a special voucher called a FUP voucher, FUP.
Okay, got to be careful with that one.
It's the Family Unification Program.
Okay.
So CPS workers have access to a special like underground Section 8 voucher system. If the one barrier that's stopping you from reunifying with your child is housing, they can get you on this special list. So we were able to get a Section 8 voucher through that program.
So if anybody doesn't know what Section 8 is when somebody has low income, poverty level income. It's to get housing, and there's good and bad about Section 8 housing. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. But it's a way for people to, in your case, get reunified with your child because you had financial barriers to be able to find housing. And that means there's got to be potentially a job, and you don't want to specifically always use I'm using air quotes, system to get you along. But many times people need assistance.
Yes.
And that's what you got.
Yes. She was just a great advocate for really anything that we needed. She would do anything she could to help us.
Wow.
So we're in treatment. I ended up being in treatment for 10 months.
Okay.
About 5 months into my treatment stay, I was able to start my home trial with my son, which means he got to come and live with me at treatment.
Oh.
Awesome. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So we were living in our our IOP lodging.
Our what?
IOP, intensive outpatients.
There you go.
We had our own little apartment.
Wow.
He got to go to Head Start every day while I went to programming. And that really gave me the time to kind of learn how to be a mom again the right way. And that was pretty awesome.
Oh, what a wonderful scenario.
Yep.
And so this was say more. So you were done with treatment, and then you were able to get the housing and got a space somewhere in South Minneapolis. I know that.
Yes. And then, so then my case started to wind down, and I was on case management until August 1st. My CPS case officially closed.
2024?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, my case just closed in August.
Wow.
Yep. So I have full custody of my son back, working for Minnesota Recovery Connection. Just
doing life.
Doing life, yes.
Wow. And what I thought was really important about bringing Rachel in and talking about this is a focus that we're sort of walking into thanks to a grant that we have at Minnesota Recovery Connection, because we know that individuals at any stage in life and different circumstances can have problems parenting. And it can be because of substance use disorder and addiction. It can also be there's a justice involvement. It can also be that a life circumstance changes all around you. And the idea is that when people are struggling, there are these systems that are there to be helpful. But what we need to do is we need to remind community and family that if you've got a relative, a friend, somebody who's struggling with substance use disorder, the idea is that don't turn a blind eye. And particularly if there are little people involved, or even mid-sized people, right? Under 18, somebody is if they're not doing well, they're not doing well. So rather than walk away or say, "Oh, we'll let the system take care," what could we do instead, Rachel? How do we walk into a situation maybe like what could have helped you, or what have you seen help other people? So
now that I've kind of been working on this kind of stuff at MRC for a little while now, I've found out there's a lot of like preventative type programs that the counties are running. There's Plan of Safe Care. Mm-hmm. There's Project Safe Child, I
Yep,
think,
yep.
Out of Hennepin County. There are just a lot of programs out there that could help before the child is taken away.
Right.
And really, if you are a family member and someone you know is struggling with substance use disorder and they have a child, coming and talking to them from a non-judgmental space, let them know like you're on their side, you want to help them rather than judge them, would be very helpful. I know for me, that's why I didn't. So when I had custody of my son and I was using, I kind of stayed inside. I didn't really go anywhere. It was just me and my son in the house. But I definitely was using, but I didn't want anybody around because I didn't want anybody to know.
Right.
And if they knew, then I felt like I was going to be judged. Because,
and be in trouble.
Yep, here I am using, and you're a mom. Oh, you had your kid taken away. Already there's this giant stigma,
Just crashing down on someone. Yeah.
Right. But I don't want to take away from the fact that I wasn't being a good mom, because I wasn't.
Right.
And having my son taken away from me was probably the worst thing that ever happened to me in my entire life. But in the end, it was the best thing that ever happened. It had to happen for me to be where I am.
For everybody's case.
Yes.
And that's what I think is so interesting. It's one of the things I talk about when I train peer recovery specialists. We talk about being a mandated reporter.
Yep.
And that's one of the things. And I say, because I've heard enough stories, I've not experienced this. I wouldn't even pretend to know that I experienced this. But that is if somebody can be somebody's advocate and say, hey, I'm seeing a situation. I see trouble coming down the road. How do we interrupt that? There's a lot, like you just said, there's a lot of services out there before things get too in the way.
Yep.
Because what's going to happen is that a system is going to come in and it's going to be a bigger situation that you have to deal with. So how do we, I don't want to say interrupt, but as much as how do we step in and say, hey, I see yellow flags going on and I don't want to get them to red.
Right. Like, hey, I've been there. I know how this
plays out.
I'll play the tape forward for you.
Yeah.
Because I can show you mine.
Right.
And it was not,
right.
It wasn't pretty, but we don't have to get there.
No.
There's things that we can do to stop this now.
Now, yeah. And I think, if somebody has to report something, I always say to what you just said earlier, and that is, if something has to be reported because somebody's either in danger or a risk that is not worthy of taking or going to happen, and that is, let's walk along this together. You might not like me because I got to report this. This may be the last thing you want, but I can quote from Rachel that ultimately this will be okay. It just won't be comfortable.
Yeah.
And it'll be really gnarly, in fact, for a little while. But if I can walk alongside you and say, just have some faith that I'm not going to be against you. I'm going to be walking with you.
Yep.
So can it be a peer specialist, a peer recovery specialist who can do that? Can this be a caseworker? Can this be somebody in between? Because it's all about the power of communication.
Right.
And information.
Information and communication.
I mean,
two big things that I feel like I just lacked in the beginning of my case that would have just been so helpful.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just think that happens, if you've got a family that's struggling with a family member that might have children, you don't know what to do. And so you have to call the cops. It's like, okay, maybe family member, before you do that, call anonymously to a helpline and say, I've got this going on, and what would be the thing that I could do? And they might say, call the cops, depending on the situation.
Right.
Or they might say, hey, there's these organizations through hospital systems that can maybe step in and try to build a plan around the safety of someone, right?
Yeah.
And what are the kind of things?
Well, there are treatment programs that you can enter with your child. So, and that's before CPS comes in. I know the treatment programs that are here in the Twin Cities that have a mother-child program, you don't have to have CPS involvement.
Wow.
To be in those programs. You can enter them voluntarily on yourself before there's any legal
stuff.
Yeah, that happens.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So let's say a mom is struggling and family members like, okay, we gotta do something about this. I'm going to be here. I'll try to help as best I can, but maybe I'll call MRC and see if I can get a hold of Rachel.
Yeah. Perfect. Hi.
But it's like, before anything really bad happens to anybody here, hey, how about go to ABC Treatment Center, whatever it is. They have a children and family service.
Yep.
And I think one of the other things that I heard, and that is we're probably talking about a mom, Rachel, the mom who had a problem. And sometimes there's a partner, there's a husband, there's somebody who's alongside in this. And I was listening to an interesting program I'll just say it, KMOJ on, I can't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday. And they were talking about how the African American community, there isn't any community that's any harder hit in some cases, but the African American community, they just seem to have a double dip in terms of the bias against somebody having their children taken away. That's a fact. I don't have numbers, I don't have statistics, but that's a fact. But one of the points that was made, so just to bring this back to, and that is a woman is being judged by what she does, but maybe there's a parent who doesn't have anything to do with the situation because the mom has full custody, and there's a dad out there willing to take the child, but the father is held to the same standard as the caseworker. We were kind of talking about that.
Yeah. So in my specific case, the CPS case was only on me.
Right.
Because my son was born not in a marriage. So in the state of Minnesota, the mother automatically has sole physical custody. So the CPS case was mine. It was my case. And I had taken a UA for CPS that had been dirty just to solidify.
Taken a what? And
a
it
urine,
was what?
A urine analysis.
And it was positive?
It was positive for substances.
Yes, I'm just correcting her language here, folks.
But he had not taken a urine analysis for them. Mm-hmm. So they only had hearsay on him. But he was held to every standard that I was. If he wanted to see our son, then he had to have his own case plan, even though they really didn't have any factual evidence on him.
So he was denied access to your son in any way.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so and the reason why we bring this up is that there's a lot of situations, and we hear the news and we hear about this happening and that happening. Every situation is so incredibly unique, folks. And so if you hear of somebody who's struggling with their substances or with a problem and there's a child involved, the best method of support for that child is to put it with a trusted adult that is actually chosen by the family or the person, right?
Yep.
Like what your mom did for you for your older children.
Yep.
She came in and they were like, okay, we're going to do this because it's better to be with grandma than it is with somebody else.
Yep.
They're going to have your best interest and the child's best interest. So if it's a cousin, it's an aunt, it's an uncle, it's a brother, it's a sister, let's make sure that we try to unify a family even in those roughest of situations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I do want to point out that the family that cared for my son during those months, they are amazing people. And we still have the best relationship with them. They pick my son up, take him swimming every, month. They do a Christmas with him, a birthday, like they are family, and they are just amazing people. So, I mean, that ended up being good.
And this was the foster family.
Yes.
And see, and so we are saying nothing negative about foster families. They are the most savior people possibly.
Yes.
I mean, yes, there are horror stories, but I think that 99% of them are probably the best people.
Yep.
And they turn out to be potentially family members for you. And so they come in and they take care of a situation, and we value all of that. But all of these are moving parts for people. And when people are struggling with substance use disorder, trying to come back online, then you have all these moving parts. Let's just as a community try to wrap our arms around folks, help people figure out things, be an advocate for somebody. If somebody's really struggling, it's like, hey, I got this person's back. How can I step into this situation and be supportive? It's scary.
Well, yeah, right away you hear a mother lost her kids. Shame. Right. Immediately.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like that.
And you don't know the situation.
Right.
You don't know the situation. Somebody could have passed away and somebody went into a deep depression and they were not intentionally neglecting their child or somebody. I mean, the situations are insurmountable why a child could be taken away from somebody.
Right.
So before we cast that huge, like, black cloud on them.
Shame blanket on someone.
Yeah, shame blanket. I like that. Let's go, hey, what happened?
What happened?
What happened? What was going on? What
Absolutely.
was going on? And even if somebody's drinking too much or using too many drugs, what's going on? Because generally there's a story behind the story.
Something's probably going on.
Yeah. I mean, we have learned time and time again, there's generally trauma that is behind somebody's activities.
It's not about what you did. It's about what happened to you.
Exactly.
To you, right, Katie?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's Dr. Sue Hoisington. Well, and I think the other thing is that I've learned through many different stories that I've heard that if a parents, we'll call it Rachel, has a problem with substances and they probably have some trauma behind them, and maybe there was some child neglect or child abuse that took place in maybe Rachel's situation.
Yep.
And so then maybe the person who maybe had on bad actions towards Rachel, their previous parent or there's someone in their family. So we're talking about historical trauma can happen here.
Right.
And so these activities, these actions cannot necessarily just be blamed on the person who's having the thing in front of you.
Right.
What's the whole story?
Right.
What's the story, but then what's the whole story? Because sometimes things are not as they appear.
Right.
And it's just super important to don't prejudge. Don't assume anything. I was hearing somebody was talking about assuming. Oh, I remember who it is. I'm going to leave it away because it could get controversial. But you can't assume anything because, Rachel, what does that mean?
You want me to say it?
Yeah.
You make an ass out of you and me.
And me, yes. And so what I always say when I'm talking about using the word assume, using the word, not the worm, but the word assume, is that you don't know.
No.
So if you don't know, what do you do, Rachel?
If you don't know, you don't know.
You don't know, but you ask.
But then you find out, and then you do better.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is for Celie Dudley. If you're listening, you don't know what you don't know until you know, and when you know, you do better.
Oh, God, you're so good at that, I can't.
Well, I know. I can just whip it off because I do it all the time. But, I mean, that's really, it's like sometimes we don't know what we don't know.
Yep.
You at one point in your parenting did not know what to do next. So what you did is you hid because you could control that. You knew what to do, and you knew what to expect in that situation. But if you would have gone out of the house, you wouldn't have known, and fear took over.
Yep.
And so you didn't know what you didn't know. And then all of a sudden things turned around, and then you found out, and then things got better. So it's really about this, and it's about support.
It is. And, going through everything that I went through, in the beginning, like I said, I had a lot of shame and guilt, but I really wear everything that I've been through like a badge of honor now. Mm-hmm. I'll tell anybody that'll listen. I've had a CPS case, but guess what? I successfully completed mine. Yeah. And so everything that I've gone through has brought me to this point in my life right now. And I know for myself that things, maybe in the moment, I didn't know that things could get better, but they did. Mm-hmm. So anybody who's struggling with substances and children, you can overcome this.
And the best thing you can possibly do is reach out potentially to an organization like ours, like so many others that are out there, and say, I need help.
Yep.
Can somebody help me? I need somebody to walk alongside. I need somebody to advocate with or for or about me.
Yes.
Because I can't cope right now.
Yep.
And there's a lot of people that aren't coping behind closed doors all day long. And so remember, if you hear about somebody or something's going on and something looks a little funky, walk into the space. I mean, you have to walk in with caution, but don't assume that somebody's got their stuff together, because they might not. And they do need somebody to just sort of like, I'm just going to look at you and I'm not going to judge you, but I want to help.
Yeah.
I mean, how much that would have helped you, right?
Oh, my gosh. It would have helped me so much.
And that's why she's on this mission, folks. And so I just want to God, thank you so much, Rachel, because I know she was super nervous the first time. Now this is the second time. She's a lot calmer.
Well, technically, I've been on 3 times now because we did a 2-hour show that last time.
Oh, that's right. Okay, not that she's counting or anything, but I just want to say thank you because it's really important to have these conversations that are a little squiggly in your chair. You don't really understand why they happen, but this is why we have good conversations.
Yep.
So when we come back from our break, what I want to do is I want to talk to Rachel about what her next intentions are. Ooh, where she's going to go, what she's going to do, take all this knowledge and share it with the world. So thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, a Recovery Revolution here on AM 950, the progressive station, and we will see you soon.
Store begging for your change. The hair on his face is
Oh, here we go. The last little bit of time. We are back on track. Hey, Rachel.
Hi, Katie.
How are you, dear?
Doing great.
Awesome sauce. So we just had a marvelous conversation about Children Family Services, CPS, CFS, all these things that revolve around vulnerable adults, be it little people, big people, or whoever it is. And Rachel has taken the charge at Minnesota Recovery Connection to really step into this place. So why don't you dream a little bit? What would be a thing that you want to do or throw out there to the cosmos to bring to you?
Right now, I am just really trying to get more experience just dealing with because everybody's situation is different. Mm-hmm. So every time I get a new participant that's dealing with CPS, I'm gaining more knowledge about, just how that whole process works. Mm-hmm. So my goal would just be to continue to be a support and an advocate, for people that are going through something similar to what I did. But then taking that, I don't even know, somewhere else, maybe opening up my own RCO, just doing billable services with participants that are specifically having the CPS involvement, working closely with the counties, and just being that maybe, possible referral for maybe a preventative type measure before the CPS case starts,
right.
Helping somebody or supporting them with getting access to treatment or finding parenting classes or just kind of being that buffer between CPS and, and the participant. Mm-hmm. So that's what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, and I think what the systems are beginning to get smarter and build these children care systems rather than come in, have a case, you be the bad parent, and then they go off someplace, and then a family could be wrecked. And now what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, hey, wait a minute, how do we keep that little person in the best situation possible, and then find the human that might be distraught around them, get them what they need sooner, easier, faster.
Yep.
And it's advocacy and support and listening. That's what it's all about. I mean, it's the mission of Minnesota Recovery Connection for substance use disorder, but there's so many different pieces of the puzzle as to why people use substances. It's just crazy town. So, what I see Rachel doing is just growing in this opportunity. Minnesota Recovery Connection gets very interesting projects tossed at us. And so, who knows what our future looks like. But now that we've really stepped into this space, just like we have our bilingual program, just like we have, the training that we do at Minnesota Recovery Connection.
The Justice Involved program.
Justice Involved program, which is ginormous.
Yes.
We got to step into where people are physically at.
Yep.
Not just this balloon of addiction, because there's so many, as you said very well, there's so many unique situations around humanity and what can go sideways. So I see Rachel just developing her own special skill set here, becoming more smarter all day long, learning about different things. I was saying while we were, just before we came on, I'm like, maybe there needs to be we have Recovery Day on the Hill. We have peer recovery services day on the Hill at the state capitol. We have the Justice Involved Day on the Hill. We've got the Homeless Day on the Hill. We've got all kinds of things. Maybe Rachel is going to develop Family Services Support Day on the Hill.
Yes, I love
Children
it.
and Family Services
Yes.
Day on the Hill.
Yes.
I just see something busting loose.
You know, whenever we talk about it, I always get so excited. Everyone's like, okay, calm down a little bit. I'm like, no, this is what I want to do.
We need to have that enthusiasm, that energy. I mean, that's how this whole, Pure Services started.
Yep.
Somebody's like, I got to look at this differently.
Yeah.
I have to look at it from the lens of how do we help? So, Rachel, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm very excited that you were here. Have a nice new conversation. Thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. We want to thank you for listening. If there's any opportunities of volunteering that you'd like to do at Minnesota Recovery Connection, we help people in many different phases. We also are accepting donations at all times. But I want to thank you for listening and have a marvelous day. Bye, Rachel.
Bye.
Have a good day.
You too, Kathy.